So in 2004 and 2005, I went to France as a foreign exchange student, and it was a nightmare. Before I even start this, I want to preface that my aim is not to be negative or discouraging. Frankly, in my opinion, if studying abroad is something you really want to do, then nothing I present to you in this video is going to change your mind. I merely want to show an alternative to what is typically presented, and hopefully by considering it, you can be better prepared. What made my experience a nightmare? I wish it could be boiled down to just one thing. That would be really simple, but life is never that easy. It started with tiny problems that led to other issues, and it just continuously snowballed from there. However, I can confidently say that there are two factors that led to the majority of my issues. The first was language. I went to France with the basics, and I wasn't worried about learning the language. Everything I read said that immersion was the easiest and most effective way to learn a language. 3 to 4 months was considered the norm, and that's what I aimed for, except I have dyslexia. I was diagnosed when I was 7 years old and put into special reading groups and a special study group. So by the time I was in high school, I was no longer in these groups, and I had learned all the tools and techniques to be able to manage it, and it was not an issue. I didn't even know that dyslexia could affect language learning. But then in my French class, we weren't expected to read and write or speak at a very high level. It took me 7.5 months to learn the language. Those 7 months were horrible. I had one person in France who was willing to help me learn French, and that was my host mother. And that's it. My school offered nothing. In fact, my teachers completely ignored me the first 2 trimesters. I didn't follow any of my classes. I worked on French for 8 hours every single day, and my teachers just gave me passing grades. The organization that I came with offered zero support. Sadly, a lot of people there felt that the reason why I couldn't learn French was because I wasn't trying, because I was just a dumb American who didn't care about other languages or other cultures or countries. That was disheartening because for the first time ever, I actually felt stupid. I felt alone and isolated because my inability to communicate meant that I couldn't make connections with other people. I had no friends, I had no help, and I didn't know what to do. Finally, having no other options, I sent an email to my French teacher in the States, begging her to help me because I was so desperate. And luckily, she sent me the contact of this lovely woman who helped me, and within a month, I was able to conquer French, at least to the point that I was able to communicate with people. Sadly though, I do still have issues reading in French. The second factor was ethnocentrism. In case you weren't born or you don't remember, 2004-2005 was when Bush was president, America had started the Iraq War, France did not support us, and Americans were in the process of boycotting French products. It was not a good time for a French person to be in America or an American to be in French. It was a very toxic atmosphere. I knew this before I left. I was in ROTC, and my teacher told me that if I went to France, I would not be welcome back to join the class when I returned. Students and teachers told me that I was unpatriotic and a traitor to my country, and that I was probably going to be raped and killed when I went to France. My response was that they were wrong. And in my naive mind, I thought the French are too sophisticated to have these narrow-minded thoughts, as if bigotry is biased to nationality. I was very, very wrong. I drank the Kool-Aid and believed that everyone loved my country because we are awesome. I was lied to. There was a lot of hostility, and certain people from the very beginning made it very clear to me that in their eyes I was less than human. I didn't know how to deal with this level of hatred because it was completely out of my experience level. So I just ignored it, and I tried not to let it get to me. However, 7 to 8 months into my year in France, I went to this music festival called the Printemps de Bourges, and I was assaulted. A guy heard my American accent while I was speaking French and just started insulting my country, my president, and me. At this point, I was pretty used to this, and so I just ignored him. He did not appreciate that, and he hit me to get my attention. And I don't mean a little tap or just a little nudge. I got hit, and I'd never been hit in my life, ever. I learned when it came to fight and flight, I am a runaway kind of person. And that moment was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I was terrified. I didn't report it, and I should have. However, I knew that people hated me because I was American, and I really believed that if I went to the police, that they were going to say that I was lying. I did not want to deal with that. I was exhausted, and I wanted to go home. And so after the festival, when I went home, I started the process to be able to go home early. But the organization has sit-downs to talk things out. I didn't feel like they would believe me either. So I brought up all the other issues that I had, to which they replied that they were all normal and that I should finish the year out because it was almost over. And I didn't have an argument, and so I decided to stay. And oh my gosh, why am I crying? And that just broke my heart because I really did not want to stay. What would I change? And the answer to that is nothing. I know that sounds mental, and I'm not going to lie, it took years for me to get to this point. Before, I ardently wished that I had not gone to France. It took a lot of time for me to even be able to look back at that year and see something positive. But I think that everything that happened to me that year helped make me grow into a better version of myself. And if I changed just one thing from that year, I might have missed an important lesson, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And I like this version. Would you do it all again? Absolutely. Yes. Hands down. 1,000,000 times over, yes. It was hard to see at the time, but even the negative stuff turned into something positive. And there was a lot of positive things that happened that just were overshadowed by the negative. And I can't imagine where my life would be if I didn't have France. And I like my life. It's a pretty good life. If you are going abroad and you have questions, feel free to ask. I am more than happy to answer. Thumbs up for dyslexia. Subscribe to stalk me, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you tomorrow. Tootsies, may applezines.